While Rolex is known to be a conventional, traditional and a purist brand, that is, they stick with their design attributes, distinctive looks, core features and iconic aesthetics. They do experiment things and believe in evolving with time. The approach that Rolex take with their watches is very interesting, futuristic and diverse. With being purist and conventional, a brand makes the identity in their products. That is, if you see a Rolex Submariner from over 60 years ago or a Rolex Datejust from 70 years ago and compare them with the models from today, aside from the age and the material degradation, you can spot them unmistakably to be a Rolex Submariner or a Datejust. And this is where the concept of watches being timeless comes from. That is, a watch that was worn many decades ago is still the same, looks still the same, has all the same attributes and characters, and is recognizable despite a generational gap. But then when we say that Rolex do evolve with time, they've offered newer models and variations, but without the cost of iconic looks and aesthetics. And despite all the new offerings even today, the Rolex Datejust is still also available in its purest form, size and looks. The times have changed from the first introduction of Rolex Datejust, and accordingly, Rolex have continued to master and evolve the DJ to make it a success in what it is today. Where the watches back in the mid-1900s were purely a device or an equipment for time telling, today the watches are more than that. And the expectation from the wearer is not just to have the same oyster case and a perpetual movement, but also the jewelry attributes and design characters where the factors of pleasure, prestige, fun and pride are there during the ownership and wear of the watch. And when the factors of pleasure and fun are what are starting to drive the market, it is an intelligent move by Rolex to offer a fun and unique dial in the watch, the Rolex Datejust, while making sure that the oyster case, the fluted or a domed bezel, and a jubilee or oyster bracelet remain the same. And in result, where we have a watch with completely different and unique looks for our typical Datejust, the aesthetics from the case shape and the overall vibe are very true to it. In this new release, Rolex have offered a Palm Motif Dial, and if it's not clear already, the interesting texture, the design and the print that the dial offers here relates to a palm tree. Now while the tree and the leaves themselves look more natural in a green dial, that option is only available in all steel reference. And if you were more interested in a silver dial with palm motif pattern, the only option is a two-tone with silver and ever rose gold combination, as you can see in this video. Another interesting fact about this model is that the motif dials are only offered in the DJ36 reference, and as yet there is no such dial option available in DJ41. The palm motif texture, being true to its natural shape, is not symmetrical on the dial. Rather, the imprint here is more natural and casual. So if you wanted to see the left side of the dial to be in perfect harmony or alignment with the right side, then your best bet is Fluted Motif Dial, where the texture is symmetrical on the dial. I reviewed the Fluted Motif DJ36 in blue dial a few weeks ago, and if you're interested in that video, the link is on the top right corner of your screen. The dial comes with a beautiful treatment where the leaves offer an interesting experience, primarily due to multiple finish on the dial. I will discuss more on the dial finish and treatment in my macro section shortly in the video. The silver dial is beautifully complemented by the rose gold hour markers and dial hands. The fluted bezel is also of rose gold, and the way the fluted bezel plays with the light is a truly sensational experience. It has a blink of its own in a beautiful way, but if you wanted a more muted and understated watch, you can also go with a domed bezel in DJ36. The center links of the bracelet are also of ever rose gold, and they not just complement the looks but also add so much character and beauty to the watch. The attention to detail is that the crown is also made of ever rose gold, and that adds a beautiful contrast to all steel case. The case is all polished, and since the DJ is more of a dressy watch, especially in a 36mm case, the case top surfaces also come all polished. This particular watch is on Jubilee bracelet, but if you preferred an oyster bracelet, that configuration is also available to order. Looking at the finer details under the macro, the dial hands come all polished, and to add the legibility and looks, they have dual facets at an angle, so you always get to see the dial hands, no matter what orientation is the light source. The dial hands are of rose gold, and the edges and the corners of the hands are very well executed. The second hand makes no difference, and it's a sight like this you really start to notice the attention to detail that goes into fine watchmaking. The dial is the highlight of this watch, and if you notice closely, the dial base itself is sunburst with very well-defined radial brush lines, and then the palm motif imprint is offered in a matte finish in an exceptionally beautiful way. Not just the look is subtle yet interesting. If you look at the corners and the edges where the dial treatment transitions, it is anything but ordinary, and it is truly simply beautiful, elegant, and exceptionally executed. The applied hour markers also come in polished finish, and then they have bevels at the longer edges to allow them to reflect the light during your wrist movement and offer the experience that is truly representative of jewelry and complements well with the fluted bezel. The text on the dial is crisp and well executed, and there's basically no issues, flaws, or anomaly on site, which is truly impressive for otherwise a mass-produced watch. The lume shot, the details of the movement, and a detailed analysis on the case, the bezel, the bracelet, and the dial dimensions is all captured in my video for Fluted Motif Dial DJ36 as per the link on the top right corner of your screen. So in the interest of time, I will not repeat the same information again. On the wrist, the best part with the DJ36 on a fluted bezel, Jubilee bracelet, and then the palm motif is that every part of it plays with the light from every angle, and then every part plays with it differently. With fluted bezel with polished and angled surfaces, the Jubilee bracelet with polished and brushed links, and then the palm motif dial with sunburst and matte texture to add the contrast. There is an experience that truly adds a glamour and joy on the wrist, to the point that you will simply find it hard to not look at it. My wrist size is 6.5 inches and the wristband is 55mm, and the DJ36 with a little over 43mm lug-to-lug fits in the center of my wrist, and although it looks very proportionate and balanced on my wrist, it is overall a small watch, and it is meant to be a small watch. So while it is a watch on the bracelet, it is one of very few steel bracelet watches that is actually a dress watch. Despite having all the sporty attributes like 100 meters of water resistance and a screwed-on crown, the case thickness of the watch is 11.9mm. So while it is not the thinnest watch to be seen, it does not look thick, and thanks to its smaller dimension and then the rounded case edges, it overall slips under the cuffs without any problems, and it does not even seem thick. The case lugs contour with the wrist, and if you notice closely, the watch case sits right on the top of my wrist as if it's tailor-made for me, with practically no space between the lugs and my wrist, and it truly fits like a glove on the wrist. There's then Jubilee bracelet to add to the experience, and then the clasp that comes with welded Rolex logo on it, but there's no safety locks on the clasp. There's a 5mm extension link to offer some flexibility. There's also micro holes to give that fine tuning for the bracelet length adjustment. Rolex Datejust 36 Palm Motif Dial with fluted bezel and Jubilee bracelet offers the combination in the Rolex line that has for you the dressy looks and formal vibe, yet the attributes of fun, pleasure, and uniqueness. The palm motif, although beautiful and unique, is probably not for everyone. It makes the dial look busy and unsymmetrical, and then how it ages with time and how long it lasts is something that no one knows. It is interesting and indeed unique. So if you do love to live in the present and like the dial and the experience on offer, this is basically one of a kind watch. And I can tell you that if this dial design floats your boat, there's basically nothing not to admire here. But if you look for a more timeless and a historic watch, it is indeed a new release and the future is unknown. Whether will it not be accepted in a longer term is extremely unlikely, because Rolex don't follow the trend. They set it, and they really know their business. It is a brand that can make yellow and red dials go 2 times their retail. A brand that when it did the green, it became the new blue. Now adding some leaves to the dial, we may have a new trend in the making.